panelists and then give them a few moments to introduce themselves in just a few minutes. We are waiting for one more panelist who is stuck in traffic. So when he arrives, he will just join us on the stage. But for now, I'd like to hand it over to Professor Lokoye, who's going to introduce us and welcome everyone here.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you back to the live conversations on behalf of Aga Khan University and the Medical College East Africa, as well as all the teams that are participating. As you all know, this forum is our answer to the question of how do we communicate the work that we do in an institution such as this, in a university setting, in a place where we do a lot of research, where we teach, and so on. And so these live conversations were conceived as our opportunity to bring the learning that we get within the academy with the reality on the ground, and then frame it around people who are experts, so that at the end of the day, when we leave a session like this, we leave with something that we have learned, but we also potentially leave something behind in the contributions during the conversations that we're going to have. And so thinking about the traditional image of the university as an ivory tower, we are getting down from the ivory tower and getting onto the ground so that the work that we do, we can see its impact right in the populations that we serve. And so this brings me to today's topic, as Farid has said, the long way back. And I think just some reflection to frame the conversation is that for a long time, and perhaps we will figure out today if this has changed, society has placed men on a very high pedestal. I think many of us will agree for a variety of reasons, but men have been placed on a very high pedestal. Now, the danger of being on a very high pedestal that is very far away from the ground is that when you fall, the fall is very long and very hard, and it's potentially life-threatening. And the life we are talking about is social. You know, we have a social life where we play a part in the society, and that can die. The life we are talking about is psychological, our psychological wellness, but it can also affect our physical well-being as well. Now, the climb back in social esteem, psychological well-being, and even physical health can be very difficult and fraught with many, many obstacles, which we are hoping will be explored today. And this is why it is important to look at that steep slope that leads up to the pedestal upon which these men have been placed, and think about how do we prevent that danger when the fall happens, and therefore maybe we build a scaffolding to break the fall when it happens. Or if we cannot do that, build a ladder or steps to make the climb back easier. And that is why we do the live conversations, and that's why we curate the topics that we have chosen. And I want to thank Farid for agreeing to come and help us with this conversation, help guide the conversation, and ultimately help us to agree on the products at the end. And for the panelists, I also thank you very much for making time to come and be with us. And for the audience, I look forward to a very, very active participation. Karibuni sana AKU.
Thank you, Prof. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. When this was sort of proposed that I join and moderate this panel and this discussion, the long way back conversations about a man at rock bottom and the long climb back home, it was really a no-brainer. So thank you to Anthony for reaching out to me. My name is Farid Kimani, as the professor has said. I have been in the media space for many, many years. And during those many, many years, I also found my rock bottom in 2018. And the climb back has been not just difficult, not just challenging, and we can look at all sort of the negatives of it all, but really nothing has been more rewarding in my life than the climb back. And I am probably halfway to 3/4 of the way there right now, but the growth and the experience has been incredible. And you learn a lot about yourself when you are at rock bottom. They always say, the best way to to build yourself back up is to lose everything. And you can sort of redefine your future. If you didn't have values, if you didn't have things like this, you can set those values for the first time. And setting them at the age of 43 is may sound absurd to some people, but it was a great start for me, almost a second life. I just want to again thank the panelists, as Prof has done already, for joining me here for this conversation, who will introduce themselves as well. And we'll start at the end with Fred Gorey. Fred, just a little bit about yourself and what brings you into this chair, onto this stage.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Fred Gorey. Very happy to be at AKU today. I consider myself a communications professional. I've been in PR for many years now, but I also teach. I teach communication in one of the universities in Kenya. That's enough, Farid?
Yeah, okay, for now. We'll get into it. You can pass the microphone to your left, Fred. Please introduce yourself.
Are we doing introductions?
Yes. So you got here just in time.
Yeah, skidding. My name is Paul Murunga. I am otherwise known as Pablo. I am a communications professional. I see myself now as a storyteller, having lived a number of lives. Yeah, as an athlete, as an advertising person, as a brand strategist, and now doing stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Pablo. Interestingly enough, that's two communications experts, and both are here to talk about rock bottom. So I'm not sure if we have a theme, because I'm also in comms as well. And if I'm not wrong, you're also a comms person. Finance. Oh, good. All right, Doc.
Good evening. My name is John Wero. I am the Chief Medical Officer and the Associate Dean Clinical Affairs at the university where we are seated. And I also do serve in the clinical area in a field called palliative medicine. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Doc. And over to you, Anthony.
So that leaves me. My name is Anthony Onyango. I work for ABSA, and I am a man. I think that's important to say because it's a key thing. As a man, we go through certain things, and I run a forum that allows men to express themselves. We are not allowed to express ourselves in many forums or many fora. So that's what I do. But I'm in finance. Yes, I work for a bank.
Yes. And we're going to get into that as well in a few minutes. The obvious topic of today is about rock bottom and the climb back. So I'm going to start with you, Fred. We had a chat prior in the briefing room. And you were sharing your story, and it's such an impactful story, and one that is sort of, if you don't really think about the effects of what can happen as a child, the communication you're given as a child, that can lead and linger in your adult life, these things can affect you for many years. And I'd like you to just give us a little bit of an overview of why you are here today. And again, we're not focusing primarily on the rock bottom, but we want to hear what took you to rock bottom.
Thank you. Thank you, Farid. Having learned from Onyango, I am also a man. And that's important to say. Talking about rock bottom, before I get to my own story, rock bottom is not an objective situation. It is subjective. There's no SI unit for rock bottom. What is rock bottom to me is not rock bottom to the next person. And I was giving the example of someone loses their 90-year-old mom, some people may say, yeah, I mean, my mom's lived long, happy life, so we celebrate her life. For someone else, the loss of a mom, even at 90-year-old, can actually be a very serious situation, can take them into depression or even worse. Also, rock bottom depends a lot on your experiences, how you were raised, your inner strength, and all that. So to my story and why I'm here today, I have had, I would say, two very important situations in my life, which are interrelated. I think the profs in the room who are doctors and psychiatrists will most likely tell me they're interrelated. And one of them, which I will begin with, because was the first one which I noticed as a child. It is a sleep condition. And I would estimate the first time I experienced this sleep condition, I was about 5 years old, or maybe younger. I can't remember exactly. But what happens is that as I was falling asleep, I experienced this force holding me back, preventing me from falling asleep. And it felt like I was fighting a very powerful force. It was like another being is next to me and fighting me and preventing me from falling asleep. And that night I didn't sleep, because I think every time I was trying to fall asleep, it would happen. Fall asleep, it would happen. So I was born and raised in a polygamous home where there were 4 wives, 1 father, lots of rivalries. So when I woke up that morning, the morning after, I went to where the adults were seated. The adults were from another house, not our house, not my mom's house. So I told them what had happened to me overnight, and they told me, wow, that is like demons fighting you. Yeah, demons fighting you. And maybe your mom is doing some funny things. That's why demons are fighting you. So I can tell you that sleep paralysis is a nightmare. It can be very scary if it happens only once. But if it's going to happen every day, every night, that you can't fall asleep, then it becomes a disaster. I don't know how to, a better word to use, but it's a terrible situation. Every morning, you don't actually wake up. You crawl out of your bed, tired, groggy, feeling dark on the inside. In fact, your world is gray. You don't want to go out to do anything. So I grew up believing I was fighting demons every night. I think it was only around 2019, coincidentally, I came here to the Aga Khan Hospital, where they did a sleep study. And that is where for the first time, I learned, I don't remember the name the doctor used for this condition, but I know it had got to do with a bit of sleep paralysis plus something else he explained. So that is the first time I now convinced myself that this is not demons fighting me. This is actually a sleep condition, which could have been diagnosed earlier, and maybe something could have been done about it. But I spent more than 40 years not sleeping or having very poor quality sleep. Maybe I'll say about the sleep condition a little later, but the treatment here at Aga Khan, and I was told, though, that there's no treatment for it. No medicine can be given to treat it. So I was taught sleep hygiene, which I've been trying to apply with mixed results. The paralysis happens less often, but it is still there. The second situation that I have been going through, and they could be interlinked, is a mental health situation. Depression and anxiety attacks. And this began also pretty early, but it got worse with time. If I can describe depression in my own words, I would say I have had malaria before. You have a malaria, and I remember how it felt like. It was, I had no appetite. I was very sick. You're feeling hot. You're very tired. Now, depression is feeling 10 times that way, but now on the inside. And the difference is that whereas malaria can go do a test and I can be given medicine and I get well after a few days, I cannot pick this depression from me and get out and, it's like a part of you, becomes part of your DNA. And you actually hate yourself. You wonder why you're around here. And other people, you also tend to believe that other people hate you too. They don't like you. So you tend to be a loner. And I would say some of the consequences of this is one, that I've not had like real friends, someone you can call a real friend who you can depend on, who you can run to. I have general friends and I have groups which are very supportive, but a friend who can stand by me, I wouldn't say I have a friend. Number two, relationships, even at the family level with your wife, is significantly affected. And they also wonder what could be the problem with you. And number three, which is quite significant, is that I have found it extremely difficult to hold a job. So I began my career, of course, with a lot of hopes, thinking I would overcome and get better. But I realized that my first job, I'm not able to sleep at night. I'm feeling terrible. Don't want to interact. I don't want to get to events. So I eased myself out of that job. You're not sacked. You ease yourself because you are just seeing this is not the right place for me. I'm not surviving. And in the end, maybe I would be sacked anyway because I'm not actually being like everyone else, not contributing as expected. So within the first 5 years of my career, I had worked in so many places, but it does catch up with you eventually. You can't be jumping from one place to another. And the question will be asked, why are you leaving? You didn't even have an impact in that place. So holding jobs has become a huge challenge for me. And it gets to a point where now you can't work. You don't have an income. And as a man, the expectation is that you are going to take care of your family, not just the immediate, but even the extended ones. For those of us who come from large families where people are needy, everyone expects that you who went to school and got a good education and now has a job, that possibly you can take care of us. So there's that expectation. And now you cannot do it. I would say my rock bottom came when, after trying the treatment for depression and seemingly not working, I remember there are drugs I was given one time, I think around 2019 or 2020, which made me to even forget people. So I would meet Pablo, and I've met him, I've known him for many years, less than 10 years, but now I can't remember him. And ask myself, what is going on here? I don't know people. My world has changed. So somehow that drug was stopped. And it took me a while to get back to normal. But in January this year, with depression, which is not treated, jobless, children who are just cleared high school and waiting to join university, I decided to relocate to the village. My village is in Migori. I'd bought land there away from my family. with some of the monies I'd made early in my career. And I was building a house. It was incomplete, but I said, maybe let me just go there and let's see if the changing environment can help anything. But I wonder what I'll do there anyway. So I went there. Initially, things seemed to be getting better, maybe the first few weeks in terms of my health, in terms of how I felt, but it didn't last very long. Soon enough, I was back to where I was. But of course, my children are then joining university and expect me to pay the school fee as is expected of a dad. And I would say it was just the worst time of my life. There's a group which I belong to. I think there could be 1 or 2 people who are in that group. For the first time, I was able to open up to them, tell them, I've been going through this, forced me back to the village, living in this incomplete house. I've got these needs. If you've got any job that you can give me to do while I'm here at home, please give it to me. And the things that group did in one day were just incredible. And maybe I'll talk about that a little later.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Before we go to Pablo, I want to just share something I learned in addiction recovery. You know, they call them geographicals, and that's going, you know, you feel out of place in a city or a town, so you move somewhere else. The only problem is you're still there. And that's where the real problem is. You're running away from yourself, but you actually can't. Before I go to Pablo, Doc, you know, Fred has spoken about, you know, being told as a child that, you know, these are demons affecting him. You know, I was, for lack of a better term, shocked when Fred told me that belief only dissipated a few years ago. And you know, that to me is sorry, it's quite shocking. The anxiety and depression is, in your opinion, would that have been interlinked with the nonsense he was fed as a child for his sleep paralysis?
Thank you, Farid. And listening to his story and what he's gone through, I think the starting point is what he was fed from the beginning. That this is the way things should be. This is the way you should behave. This is the way you as a man should be. And then he got the sleep disorder. And it is not isolated because we are one, we are one body. Physically, socially, emotionally, we are one. So one symptom, one aspect of suffering can lead to another one. And unless and until we take care of the initial one, you can have multiple building on each other. The problem with that is that the severity, the effect on us, our behaviors, our interactions worsen with time. But if we see the interconnectedness from the first one to the second one, we'll be able to take care of it and mitigate and do control.
Right. Thanks very much. Pablo, I'm going to come to you next, and then I'll come to Anthony here. We're talking about rock bottom, and you know, I don't know your story because you're in traffic, and we had the briefing earlier, but that's fine. But I'd like you to share a little bit about yourself and your story and why you're sitting on this panel.
So this is Pablo. How I see myself now is I'm just a guy doing life. That's not how I used to see me. I used to see myself as the guy. Yeah. And this is why. So I was born into call it a military family, because my father retired an Army general. He's a career military officer. My mom was a teacher, and there was 4 of us boys and my sister right at the end. So we grew up in this regimented family, and we had everything that we needed. We had a good life. I was successful young. I was athletic. I was good at it. And by the time I got into high school, I discovered rugby. Anyone watch rugby here? I had discovered rugby, and rugby had discovered me. Yeah. So by the time I was graduating, by the time I finished high school, I was in Kenya under schools combined. Then I was in Kenya, and then I was captain of Kenya, and then I was in the Commonwealth Games, and then I was at the World Cup, and all these things were happening. And I had a successful career. But on the other side, I was also in uni, and I was doing my degree in social sciences. I'm a sociologist. And I ended up in advertising after leaving campus. I was doing well. I had a good job. I had a great athletic. I had everything. Yeah. I found a wife. I don't know if she found me.
With that description of yourself, I think she found it.
Yeah, so I found this girl that I liked, and she happened to like me back, and we got married, and we had the fairy tale life. You know, the storybook? That was me. Yeah. You open the newspaper, my face was in it. My name was in it. Yeah. My mother used to tell her friends, "Did you see my son? He was in the paper." That was me. I had what I consider a great spiritual upbringing. So for me, church is a big thing. And I had found my grounding early let's put it this way, I'm a born again believer. So I had what I believe had a good base for living the life that I wanted. And then things began to go sideways. Somewhere in that journey, I'd always wanted to do me. And doing me meant quitting my job and starting my own business. The process that I took to do that is where things got a little tricky. So I felt where I was working that there was a glass ceiling. And when you're a young, ambitious guy wanting to go places, your boss is telling you, you're not quite ready. And you're like, no, I am. Yeah. So I'll tell you where to put your job. Yeah. So I quit my job in a half with a plan. I had a good plan. It's just that plan didn't work out. Yeah. So I found myself jobless, but with a wife and 2 children. Now, when you're a guy, when you are the guy who's used to being able to do all these things, you can pay your bills, you can go out when you want to, you have a car, we had 2 cars, she had her car, I had mine. And then you're here trying to start this business which doesn't work out, and then trying to hustle. And then because of the way I quit, you know, the way you have, your boss has this thing where he says, let's see if you can get work in my city. You know? So now I was here, I can't find work. Business isn't going the way. The math isn't mathing. Yeah. And yet I still have to be the guy where? In my house. It started to play on my mind. So that's the first time I got depressed. But I didn't know that I was depressed. I was trying to hustle and keep my head above water. And yet I was going through a depression. And because us guys, we don't talk about that stuff. Yeah. I don't tell her, I don't tell anyone. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm doing 1, 2, 1, 2. Things will be okay. But things are not getting okay. And you know, the fair agenda, they get tired of carrying after a while. Yeah, so you know that WhatsApp group? Yeah. The one where you are making excuses for your husband. Yeah. So it got to me because being the guy, I couldn't understand why, and being talented at quite a number of things, nothing was working out. And I couldn't understand why my life was like this. Yeah. And then because I had no outlet, or I hadn't gone there with me enough to deal with the fundamental issues around what I was going through, I carried all of that burden by myself, and it broke me. It broke me. So that journey took the better part of 10 years, yeah, of hustling and not quite. Yeah, so there were some good days, and then there were bad days. Yeah, but you're not really getting out of this starter phase. Yeah, you're this dealer who the things don't quite work. Yeah, one day you have a good deal, it works. Then 6 months later,
Nothing.
you are back to like almost negative. So my relationship, my fundamental relationship around with my wife began to deteriorate because I didn't know how to be with her when I was like this. Yeah, and she became almost like the person I lashed out to in an attempt to give myself some form of dignity. And if I wasn't doing that, then I was just in a shell. So she didn't know how to reach me. So from this guy who had everything and who could do everything, I became this guy who couldn't get out of the house. Yeah. And then my mother died. Yeah. Just before COVID, my mother dies. My mother was central, and for boys and for men, our mothers tend to hold central part in our lives. So my mother was a big part of me and my identity and who I was and how I grew up and the values that I had. And so here I am. My mother's died. My life is falling apart. My wife wants to leave me. In fact, she's essentially left me, just not left me physically. Yeah, so we're living in the same house, but we are we're like, how would I put it?
Housemates.
We're like, yes, we're like housemates.
Yeah.
So we do the operational stuff. Who's dropping the kids? Who's doing this? Who's picking up? But there was absolutely no intimacy in our relationship. Everything had died. And she was carrying most of the burden in terms of supporting us. Because I never knew when my money would check in. And you can't run a family like that. So at 49, so this happened. So all this has been happening. So I've had half of my life, everything is good. Then the other half, everything's fallen apart. So as I'm hitting my 40s, when I'm supposed to be stable, everything goes to the dogs. And at 49, I end up in my father's house. Penniless, rudderless, and with a feeling of complete worthlessness. So we went home for Christmas, and then I didn't leave. I stayed home, and I couldn't even tell my dad why. It took me 3 months to figure out what to say. Why am I not going back home? Couldn't say that I've been left. That journey back is why I'm here today. So I'm not that guy. That was 2019. I'm a completely different person now.
Okay.
Because of the work I did I call it in the valley. When I was in the valley, I was forced to confront everything I thought I knew about who I was. So my identity, my purpose, my values, and what I wanted to do now that I was there. And the one thing I can say is that if there's ever a time to start, or it's the time is always now. Yeah. So if you're struggling with anything, tomorrow is not the day you start to fix it.
Correct.
Today is.
Correct.
Yeah. And to fix it is first to acknowledge that there's a problem in the first place. So acknowledge, and that you are responsible for you. So those are the two things I came to face with when I was sitting in my old room in my father's house that I had left almost 25, 30 years ago.
In the valley.
Yes, in the valley.
We're going to come to the road back in a bit, but something has struck me, Pablo, that the stories, your story, my story, they are so similar. I was going through the exact same thing at 48. My mother passed away just after COVID. In fact, Dr. Wera was instrumental in making her comfortable during her last days as well. I had everything in my early media career, everything. And I thought I was the man. I was the man, actually. Yeah, I was. And my partners along the way found me. You know what I mean? It wasn't the other way around. And so listening to your story is it's so magical and inspirational because I've shared my story a number of times, but I've never sat like this with someone who shared almost an identical story. And I know who you are now, and I know who you were then, just from mutual people that we know and knowing about your rugby career and things like that. And just to know that there's someone else who has gone through a similar story as well is really a wonderful thing. And I know it wasn't a wonderful experience for either of us, but we're here for that purpose as well. Now, I'm going to come to Anthony now, and then, of course, we're going to go into the audience. And in the audience today, we obviously have Professor Lukoye, who introduced us, and we have Morris Ongala, who mentors young men as well. And we're going to speak to him in just a few minutes. But let's get into mentorship as well, Anthony. Now, you're not here because you have stories like Fred, myself, and Pablo. You may have had similar situations in your life, but you're here because you're doing a wonderful thing and giving men a place to speak openly like we're doing here on this stage. Tell us about what you're doing and a little bit about, you can now tell us where you work as well.
Yes, I work at Absa Bank, and I must say it's a very lovely place to work because of the things they're doing to try and create an environment where everybody's mental state is looked after, or at least to the best of their abilities. Maybe Farid, even before I go into what I'm doing for ABSA, I'd just like to mention a few figures here and there, right? There was a report published by WHO, World Health Organization, in 2024 during the World Mental Health Day, and it said there's a 13% rise in mental health conditions, right? And then it also highlighted that 1 in 8 individuals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do you understand the gravity?
Yeah.
1 in 8 people is dealing with some kind of mental condition, right? They're not well, because we're talking about mental wellness, right? They're not well. Magdari Hospital has got 10 wards. 7 of those wards are male. You remember I told you I'm a man? I said that, right? The same hospital has got 600 beds. 450 are male. You can see where I'm going with this, right? And we're not speaking. As men, we're not speaking. It takes a lot to do what Farid and Pablo are doing here, and Fred. It takes a lot to do that as a man. Why? Because of the traditional expectations, societal expectations on us. I am a man, right? And the workplace actually plays a very big role in your mental wellness or unwellness. So that's where now I come in, right? With those numbers out there and us realizing, look, my employer realizing, look, we do have people here dealing with issues like this, right? If 1 in 8 of us in the office is dealing with a mental condition, that needs to be addressed. 1 is too many. You know, there's no good number. We can't put a number and say, hey, it's okay if it's 1 in 1,000. Where that's fine. Everybody's wellness is important, but key for ABSA, and they do it both for the ladies and the men. For the men, we have a forum called the XY Forum, obviously derived from the chromosome XY. And it's a space where men are able to speak. Men are able to listen to experiences like Fred's, experiences like Pablo's, like Farid's. Men to realize that they're not the only ones going, they're not unique. Your issues are not unique. You've just seen that between you and Paul. You've just realized your issue is not unique. But I think in a normal setting, it would just be you dealing with that, right? We would be here talking about something else, but it would be Farid going to deal with that story of his and Paul going to deal with the same story on that side. Yeah?
Yeah.
So as men, we need a space, a safe space. You remember we were speaking back there and were saying, normally what happens with guys is if I put up my hand and say I have a problem, you'll probably just buy me a drink and say, be strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want another one? You want another drink?
You can't sit at the bar with your friends and say, I'm feeling a bit sad and depressed as a man.
It's yes. And then, but if you do that, then when you go back home, you're probably going to your wife who you also can't
say it to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So who's left?
Yeah.
Who's left? And then more often than not, that takes you into probably some kind of substance dependency, or we normally see people get violent, they're angry. It comes from somewhere. You don't just, that story they tell you where, or they say maybe a certain community has just got violent guys. No, I think anger comes from somewhere else. Violence comes from somewhere else. All these things are a manifest of something. And it is very important, I'll be an advocate for this, that every workplace must allow a space where men are able to open the valve. All the men here are just a valve. With the ladies, I think you guys are lucky you talk to each other. All the people sitting here are just a closed valve. Sometimes the pressure builds up and it explodes.
Mm-hmm.
And other times, you're lucky, the pressure doesn't build up enough. But that just means then all of us here as men are probably dealing with, we are the number one. So we count the ladies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the eighth person is the guy. So we count another 7 ladies, the 8th person is the guy. Because we are all stuck with something we're dealing with. And I know we spoke about the expectations of society on us. And I know we've had a conversation with Pablo about purpose and who we are and how important that is. But maybe we could tackle that
Yeah.
a bit later.
We will.
All right.
Absolutely.
Super.
Thanks.
All right.
And we're going to learn more about your forum as well at ABSA, because I think that's really important. You spoke there about, you know, what is the cover up? What is the cover up for that feeling? What is the cover up for depression or anxiety? You talk about anger, lashing out, substances, etc. I want to go to the audience, to Morris. If we can get Morris a mic, that would be great. Morris Ongala is from Miresi Consult, but that's not why he's here. Morris is here because, Morris, you mentor young men, and you have found that in your experience that more often than not, substances is the solution. And I just want to understand a little bit about what you do, and then tell us about some of those experiences you've had with young men.
Okay, thank you very much, Farid, and good evening, everybody. My name is Morris, as you've heard, and I am a communications and research consultant at Miresi Consult, which is a company I founded about 10 years ago. But besides consultancy in research and in communications, and I can see my colleagues in the profession, can I say senior colleagues in the profession are on the panel, I am passionate about emancipation of the male child, of the man, because we all know that for many years, the girl child has been empowered. And it's a fair thing. There's nothing wrong with that. And the empowerment of the girl child has stemmed from different ideologies, you know, that are, you know, pushed by people from different parts of the world and people who believe in this. For example, the most overriding, the most prominent ideology behind the empowerment of the girl child is feminism. But feminism in itself, if you take a deeper look at it, you realize that there are several variants of feminism. There's Black feminism, there's classical feminism, and all these types of feminism stemmed from something different, you know, which is historical. So we tend to, the advocates of girl child empowerment, which I am part of. I consider myself a type of a feminist, which I won't say here.
Wrong panel.
Exactly. I consider myself that way. And I'm saying this intentionally because I believe in the empowerment of the girl child. And I believe that everybody, whether male or female, deserves an equal chance at life. But the problem with the type of empowerment that our female folk have received over the years is that it is one-sided. It is an empowerment that is focused on one gender and totally blacks out the other gender. And so this has brought a lot of problems in the quality of men that we have today in the society. And it doesn't mean that men are to be demonized. It just means that these are the realities that the society has thrown at us as men today that we have to deal with. All right. So I happen to be very passionate about looking into what exactly is the problem with the boy child, what exactly is the problem with the man, where is the man, why is the man not rising to the occasion, why is the man always at loggerheads with himself, with the woman, and with the rest of the society, and why is the man always so conflicted and so ashamed to talk about the conflicts that they're dealing with within. So I run a mentorship, which is very unstructured, but I have around about 20 mentees right now. And as you rightly pointed out, Farid, substance abuse is always like the escape route for most people. And most of the people I deal with are young people who face any type of, young men who face any type of conflict in their lives. So you realize that they get into, I deal with different stories. So there are men who just got married and the life is going on very well. And suddenly COVID-19 strikes and they lose their job. And as a result, they cannot be able to provide for the family anymore. Hello, Pablo. And because of that, they are not considered man enough just because they're not able to provide. And the question therefore comes, is your validation as a man coming or directly tied into your ability to provide? So that if you're not able to provide, then you're not a man. All right, that's a question that I think we can answer here, and that's one of the reasons. I'm just giving a classical example, real life examples that I deal with. Another man has tested HIV positive, for example. So this one walked to my office. I happened to be an elder in my church, so he called me. He met me in church and he told me, "Hey, I need to see you. Can you make time over the week?" I told him, "Yeah, why not?" I gave him the directions to my office. So he walks in and tells me, "I just tested HIV positive, and I am dating this beautiful girl, and we have not been intimate, but I don't know how to tell her this. I don't want to lose her. I don't want to lose my life." And I could tell this guy is already struggling. He's already dealing with a lot of things. And before I can even open up my mouth to start, saying anything, I can smell booze from his mouth, and I'm like, "Hey, are you tipsy or are you drunk or something?" Then he admits, "You know what? I passed by the other part, and on my way to, even for me to be able to tell you this, I had to contact the bottle." So you realize that substance abuse is usually like the most, can I say, the most common route that most men take to try and escape away from the reality of the situation or whatever the circumstances that they're dealing with. And yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
Hey, was your question, did he have a part B?
No,
Because
not yet.
That was part one.
No, I think you answered that question.
Because I don't want to preempt, yeah. So
No,
yeah,
but-
it is true from my experience that most young men resort to substance abuse, and it actually varies from place to place.
Yeah.
If you're talking about young people who live, and I want us to be really, very, very practical, because we're in Africa and we're in Kenya. So our examples really need to be relatable. So if you are at the coast, for example, you realize the kind of substances that young men will abuse in Mombasa are quite variant from those that are in Kisumu and Kakamega, for example. But the bottom line is some type of substance abuse that comes with depression or with the conditions or the situations that men deal with.
Thanks very much, Maurice. I'm going to come back to the panel now because we have some online questions, and I know there's some questions in the audience as well, and I'll come back to you shortly. The title of today's session is not just rock bottom, it's the long climb back. And one of the questions that's come in online is, what are some practical strategies for the long climb back? I'm going to start with you, Pablo. But before that, I want to ask both you and Fred, in the darkest moments, and it goes without saying as a former rugby player, but I'm going to ask it anyway, or a rugby player, in the darkest moments, was substance abuse a coping mechanism? I'll ask you first, Pablo, then I'll come to you, Fred, because for me, I know my mental health struggles, the alcohol and the drugs were not the problem, they were the symptom. The problem was much deeper. It was depression, anxiety, etc. So did substance abuse become a problem for you, Pablo?
Okay, for me, no. So surprisingly, I've always had a control. So first of all through my playing career, I didn't drink. Yeah, I didn't drink, I don't smoke. Yeah, that's just how it was. But that's rooted also to my belief system around God. So that grounding allowed me to have purpose beyond self. And that's very important. So even when I hit rock bottom, alcohol was not the option. So I hid because I was embarrassed to show up publicly, not being the guy. But I didn't turn to alcohol as the thing. But here's a split, and I want to put this one out there because I think it's a big one for men. And I'll say promiscuity or deviant sexual behavior is another big coping mechanism.
Yes.
So what happens is that because you want to feel like the guy, you start to have you might have dalliances or sexual escapades that you think will make you feel better as an act maybe of conquest, and that becomes a problem for guys. Again, without proper routing, without proper grounding around how you treat the act of sex, because it's not just a physical thing, there's a connection beyond that, then you will struggle there. And for men, those are the two easy things. Harder for the sexual part because you have to find a girl who will agree, or
Fair point.
easier for the alcohol because you just have to go to a shop and buy.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay. Fred, I'm going to come to you. Then I want to get into the actionable ways in which you are rebuilding your life. So, Fred, you can maybe answer the question on substance abuse. And then part B for you will be, how are you now addressing the rock bottom? How are you coming, to this new version of yourself?
Okay, thank you, Farid. I know alcohol and other drugs can be a coping mechanism, and therefore many people. For me, however, I didn't get into that. Maybe I had other coping mechanisms, which maybe given time I can talk about. But I have never taken alcohol or any drug. Actually, I've never taken alcohol in my life. And I think it's got to do with the way you are brought up. We are brought up in these very Christian or very religious families where alcohol is frowned upon. So I never took alcohol throughout my childhood, through high school, through university, and even up to now. So no, I've not had any of those challenges. But if you are going through any mental health challenge like I have, there has to be some coping mechanisms. And for me, it has been keeping away from everyone, being in your own space, crying when no one else is watching. Crying, of course, as a man in public is frowned upon. I was talking about, just the other week we had elections in Kenya, and there's a meme going around about Kenyans telling men, it's okay to cry in public. It's a good thing, But then when a candidate cried in public, Kenyans really laughed at him. So what are we supposed to do? You tell us to cry, and then when we cry, it's a big deal. Yeah. So, but now I would cry in private the way we've been told. If you want to cry in private, then you come out. But basically, I've been keeping away from everyone, not attending events. That's changing, of course, more recently with the support I am receiving, because as a man, you can't be a loner. You have to be where other people are. And I think that's how you can begin your healing process, right? Yeah.
Okay. Pablo, then back to you quickly. You went from being the man to being a man, and that obviously has taken a lot of work. And I think you mentioned this was in 2019 where the sort of the catalyst of all of this happened.
Yeah.
What have you done? What have you done to because I assume in 2019, if you got a call from Anthony to come and sit on this panel, you would have absolutely said no.
No way.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have taken the call.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But now you're here. So there's a reason you're here. And, the journey from 2019 to 2025 in 6 years, what is that? What have you done to get yourself into a place to sit here and talk about it?
First of all, I drink. Don't think, if you see me having a whiskey, don't think I don't drink. I do drink in moderation. Yeah. Second, what did I do? First of all, I moped. I just sat with my grief and with my pain. So one of the things that we don't give enough ourselves time to do is to feel the pain. Feel it. So women do that. They feel, they experience your emotions, feel where you are at. That's the only way that you are able to translate that into an action. It takes you to the place where I call it, you have to hit rock bottom to start going back up. So, and you said something that I think was very profound, that when you move to go to a place where you think people don't know you, the one place you can't get away from is you. So even when I moved, yes, I moved away from my circle of friends, from my community, from people who knew me, from the public spaces, off social media, complete blackout. So if you had to know where my dad lived, and then you actually had to come there because I wasn't picking your phone calls. I wasn't responding to anything else outside of my immediate family. So how did I? So first of all, I just felt the pain. So for 3 months, I did nothing. I didn't even unpack. I couldn't do that because even to do that was be to accept that things were elephant. Yeah. So I got through that part where, okay. The second part was you have to have people who feel your pain with you. So I call those people my tribe now. So we say we have friends, but do you really? We say we have family, but do you really? And how you know is when things are hard, they stay. They stay when you can't pick up that phone call. They'll come home. So he's not picking up. Actually, let me show him. They'll come. So I had friends who would come home. They knew the situation I was in. They would come and sit with me. They'd come with a bottle of whiskey and we'd sit on the grass outside my father's house and have a drink and just talk. They wouldn't tell me about my problems. They wouldn't ask me about the things that I was struggling. They would just sit with me so that I had company. So that, in a way, so that the world doesn't forget you and you don't forget your world. But I also had family who showed up for me enough for me to see myself again. So who are those people who mirror what you can be that allows you to begin to rebuild without judgment? And I'm glad that I had built those foundational elements earlier in my life, that I had spaces. My primary school alumni group was one of those, that I could show up in that WhatsApp group, no judgment. I could, and the first coming out for me was actually going to a reunion organized by that group 3 years after the fact. Yeah. I had a high school group that did exactly the same thing. It's how I got back to work. It's how I got dignity. The guys who were my referees, knowing my abilities, but knowing that I have this gap in my resume now, they're the guys who stood up and said, yeah, he can do that work. But he hasn't been in there. No, he can do that work. Yeah. Some guaranteed me, some offered me opportunities that I wouldn't have had without them. So build a tribe that's resourceful for you and that sees you regardless of what you have. So I figured that I wasn't the things that I had. That's why I'm now just a guy doing.
Just a man.
Yeah, just a man doing life.
Yeah. But you had to hit the rock bottom.
I had to hit that place. 100%. You have to go there.
Yeah.
If you don't go there, then you keep thinking that you can figure it out. But asking for help isn't a problem.
No.
And men in the room ask for help. And ask for help. You don't have to ask for help at rock bottom. You can ask for help on the way down. There are some people who go down there with you and come up.
Sure.
But ask for help.
But I think the general misconception is asking for help. There's a question here. I want to throw it to Dr. Weru and possibly Dr. Lakoya as well, if you want to add on to this. Someone has asked a question online. For many men, the act of seeking help feels like an admission that we can't fix it ourselves. Is it therapy, support groups, or a different first step? Do you have a list of clinics countrywide where I can check in for help and counseling? We don't have to mention them now, but I understand the question. And then how do I overcome the internal barrier that says I should be the pillar, not the one needing support? And I think Fred has touched on it. Pablo has touched on it. Anthony's touched on it. And I've touched on it. But these are questions that are so important because there's obviously, this is a representation of many men out there who are never going to do what Pablo just said and ask for help.
Okay. Thank you. That is a very important question that is coming. And from the word go, Men are told, even 1 day old, don't cry. You are a what? You are a man. Don't cry. And we propagate these myth that men are just physical and robotic to do what the societal expectation is. And once a man cannot do what the society expects, then they are no longer useful. And someone equated men to a cock. When it cannot do what it's supposed to do, it's slaughtered, right? Right? When a donkey cannot carry a load, what is done? It's thrown away. So that is what really the starting point is. And once we get to a point of supporting the society, the family, and the community, what happens, that becomes our identity. And nobody will be ready to lose their identity. So any loss to a man, whether of a job or something that they held dear, leaves them empty in as far as identity is concerned. So what does a man do? Because they have not been taught that there are other ways or approaches, then they go to what our colleague here was describing, what happens. And this is something as a society that we need to really focus on and agree to the fact that life does not only give you one option or opportunity. There are so many opportunities that life gives you. And I'll give you a quick example. I took care of a gentleman who had sickle cell anemia. And the wife also had, he did not have, he carried the gene. The wife carried the gene. And they got a baby who had the disease because it's half-half. Unfortunately, they lost the baby to the complications of the disease. And after that, he then lost his wife to some other illnesses. But then here was a man who had lost these two people he loved dearly. And with the interaction with the medical fraternity, he had been told that the likelihood of him getting a child with sickle cell anemia was still there. Now, here was the tricky bit of how society treats a man. The society was pushing him to get remarried. And how do you tell that you're marrying someone with a sickle cell carrier gene? He could not tell. So his fear was that he's going to cause more of a loss from where he sat. But society was pushing him, right? And he was very lost on what to do. He resigned from his job. But because we had that interaction, he would come and say, I just wanted to pass by. What happened on day 1B? So we developed a rapport. And with that, we were able to go through the challenges that he could face if he went ahead. He had his own fears, which were real. Society was pushing him. He had to actually cut off most of the people. And then eventually, this gentleman, with our interactions, we were able to go further and get some other people and support system away from what he had previously. And having resigned from his job, what he did is that we discussed, we met 3 or 4 of us, and he realized that he had some other interests. And his interest is now away from his professional career, which was something he went to school for 13 years. And he picked it. And what he did is he said, now it is me for me. Me for me. And he became someone who paid a lot of attention to the environment. something he was doing subtly, and he became a very important tree planter. Now, right now, as we speak, he is in another country. Of course, these Western countries pick our best brains because he became a very best brain in what we call grafting fruit trees and all that. Someone from a very white collar kind of job to where he is now. He's never remarried. And he tells me, anytime we communicate online, he tells me, I'm taking care of myself for myself.
Right.
So that reinvention and knowing that the life will never give you only one option. There are so many other options. And his climb from rock bottom, to me, is a lesson that we can all run until we get back to the top.
And I think what's lovely about that is that you mentioned something. I'm taking care of myself for myself. I think, and maybe Professor Lekoe, as you add on to Dr. Weru's point in the question that was asked, you can also add on to this healing. Whether it's addiction recovery, whether it's depression and anxiety, whatever the case may be, it has to be about the individual. You have to do it for yourself. The challenge I've seen with addicts, because I speak from that perspective and from a counseling perspective, is the addicts that don't succeed in their recovery are there because someone has pushed them there. Wife, mother, whatever the case, husband, whatever the case may be. The ones who come in and say, I need help, have already admitted that they need help. And I think that's a key element to coming back from rock bottom in any situation, because obviously Dr. Weru is not talking about an addict. He's talking about someone with a medical condition that has now found his purpose in life. Is it really, truly about the individual? I know you need support systems, you need family, you need friends, you need your tribe, but the individual has to make the decision that they want to get better.
I think one of the things, you have to choose you.
Yeah.
Even before your family. So one of the misnomers is that you provide for everyone else apart from you. So you provide for yourself last. In finance, I tell you, you pay who first? Yeah, you pay you first by doing what? By saving and then investing, because you can't pour out of an empty cup. But as men, we're told, take care of everyone else. Then what's left, but what happens is that there's nothing left. There's nothing left normally. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I think you make a good point. So what I would do is to disaggregate the problems that the men are facing. So there are things, so for instance, we talk about addiction and we talk about somebody who is substance dependent or somebody who has behavioral addictions and problems like those. And yes, you cannot force such a person into care because first they have to feel like what everybody else sees as a problem is actually a problem for them. Before they see that, it will be very difficult for them to get any care, even if you force it on them. So yes, there's a degree of personal agency that has to be built into that decision. But then obviously there are other conditions that you find yourself in. So I liken them to the chronic physical conditions. So you have diabetes, you have hypertension. There has to be external intervention to help you. And that's how I look at depression. That's how I look at anxiety disorders. That's how I look at a variety of disorders that you find yourself in. And they affect your ability to take care of yourself because they attack the very organ that helps you to organize how to help yourself. So it's like somebody who cannot see and you place a mirror in front of them and tell them, can you see that your hair has something in it? They can't see. If they could, they would do something about it. So you have to fix the fact that they can't see first before they can then start taking care of themselves. And I wanted to pick up from where Dr. Weru finished about identity. And there's, again, perhaps a misconception that identity is fixed. That once you acquire a certain identity, then that's who you are. And I just wanted to tell the men in the room today that that's not true. Identity is fluid. Identity changes with age. Identity changes with the standard where you are living. The identity changes with your social support networks and so on. Traditionally, we had a concept called age sets, where men of about the same age who went through the same rituals banded together for life. But they didn't band together and do the same things over and over until they died. their roles kept changing, their identities kept changing. So they would start as dependent kids whom people were taking care of. They were dependent. Then they reached a place where they were deployed to protect the rest of the community. And that became their identity. They were the warriors, they were the soldiers, and so on. And after that, they came back home and they got married and got children, and they became providers. And now they had dependents, and their role changed. And then they became older, and their children became older, and they became dependent again because their community now was taking care of them. And that was okay. Today, we don't think that is okay. That if I, who is a provider today, gets later in life to a position where I am no longer a provider and I start becoming dependent, everybody who knew me and who knows me would say, what's wrong with that guy? There's nothing wrong with me. I am just evolving with life as it was designed to be. It's you who needs to recognize your roles towards me, and me who needs to accept that I am no longer playing those old roles and I have a new role now in society. And that would help me with my mental wellness. And so I do think somebody asked about whether this seeking help looks like an admission of failure. That's how it looks like because of the perceptions that we have built around ourselves. So if I was once strong, a rugby player, a big guy, I must always remain a big guy. I must always remain invulnerable. So when I show vulnerability, I am no longer me because I have lost that strength that I demonstrated at some point. I've lost that wisdom that I once oozed. So I am no longer me. And that's not okay. We should accept that there are times for everything. There's a time when I will play a certain role, then I cannot play that role anymore, and I shift. And that doesn't make me any less of a man. When I accept that, then no matter what everybody thinks, I will be comfortable in my skin. And if everybody else accepts that, then we will set up a society that is more healthy for the men that live in it. So seeking help ought to be okay at a certain stage in your life, just as providing help is okay at another stage where you're able to provide that care. Must it be, I'm looking for counseling services, I'm looking for a psychiatrist, I'm looking for a psychologist? Absolutely not. The vast majority of people who are going through psychological distress or difficult life circumstances do not need a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything like that. They just need a strong social support network around them. They need an edge set. They need a group where they know if I go into that group and sit there quietly and not talk to anyone, they will understand. And if I say something that is off, they will know that there's a problem and they will know what they need to do in order to help me. So you need that social support network. And that will prevent the vast majority of the problems that we encounter. And they will be the ones who will figure out this guy is not himself. And they will link you to care when the care is needed. And you will be more likely to accept that care because this is your edge set. These are the people who can hold you by your collar and take you to a corner and tell you, what are you telling your family? Why are you treating your children like that? And you will have to stop and listen. Now, if you don't have that edge set, if you don't have that group, then there's a problem. Especially if you are one strong person and everybody used to listen to you. And now there's nobody, everybody used to do what you told them to do. And now there's nobody to tell you what to do because everybody says, he's the wisest guy, he's the strongest guy. Why should I tell him anything? And that is one of the problems or the tragedies of our society today.
Thanks very much. I want to come to Anthony now. You've sparked something in me, both Professor Lukoya and Dr. Weru, and that is the evolution of the human being. Obviously, in this context, we're talking about men. What you're doing at ABSA, is this purpose for you? Is it opening the door, opening the door to allow men to say and feel? Is that part of your purpose, Anthony?
Yes, Farid. It is. Being able to touch someone's life in one way or another positively it feels good for me. It works for me. It gets me to wake up in the morning and say, hey, him and him, they're doing better because we had this conversation, because somebody came and said something. So they're not suffering alone. Yes, it feels like purpose for me because I'm making a change outside of like they say, being a provider and a protector. And there's something I'm living for, right? And we're trying, or I'm trying, or there's a plan to move this and spread it outside the organization also. Get other guys to talk. Get forum when we're strangers and have a conversation. You see how easy it is for you and Pablo to share that experience. Probably harder if you knew, like Pablo said, he didn't want to see the people he knows. It's okay to meet people when you're going to the kiosk, but you don't want to see people that you know. So we're still trying to figure it out. One, because it's so difficult for us guys to open up. So still trying to figure out, how do we get guys to open up? And then what would that platform look like? What would that platform look like? It's easier when it's in an organization like ABSA because I mean, more or less everything is smoother. We know each other, we can bring each other into one space. But then trying to roll this out to the larger community, just to help, if we can help 2-3 men, that's something.
And do you feel, and Maurice, I'll come to you in a moment with the same question, do you feel that because of what you're doing at ABSA with the XY Forum, men are now coming to talk openly, more openly? Are you changing the mindset? Are you changing the perception in men of what a man should be?
In one of the sittings, one of the brothers shared that he has attempted suicide thrice. People don't just come out and tell you things like that. And you don't just go to the office and hey, Farid, I've attempted suicide thrice. It just doesn't happen like that. But when you create the environment where this is what we are doing, it's okay to do that here. And somebody is able to share. I think that's like one of the deepest secrets anybody would have.
Yeah, and the opening up shows that there's a shift in mindset for sure. And I think I'll come to you now, Maurice. Is it similar for you in your mentorship? You said you're mentoring 20 plus young men at the moment. And in your experience, do you feel like that there is a shift, when someone is going towards that rock bottom, that they're more willing now to say, this is how I'm feeling? And I'll speak from my perspective with addiction. I'm hearing more people say, I can feel myself, as Professor Lukoya mentioned, on the way down. Can you help me before I, hit the valley, as Pablo put it?
And I think, let me just say it's true that men are wired not to speak about their personal life. And it's also true, luckily, thankfully, that with interventions such as this, men can actually come out and speak. So in my experience, yes, I received some random calls from young men, and they start by introducing themselves on phone. I don't know them, and most of the time they don't. Like I've received 3 of such. They don't introduce them. They don't tell me who gave them my number. When I ask, how did you get to know about me? Why did you come to me? Why did you think that this is something you should share with me? Then they say, I just want to meet you. So the rest of the stories we will talk when we meet. And when I create time and we get to talk, then you realize that it was through a process we'd call in research snowballing, where you reach, it's a sampling strategy that is used to reach out to the most difficult of groups, so that you just win the trust of one, all right, and show them that there is help, that you can not necessarily provide the help, but be an avenue through which they can get some assistance, and they see the experience in their lives, then they will surely refer more people. But the other thing I wanted to mention concerning building back, because the theme today is the long way back.
Absolutely.
And I think that is a very apt theme for men today, because there's hope. So the long way back means there's actually hope. There's a destination. There's a journey that has to be taken, but it's a long one. And I just wanted to respond, and I think this has been buttressed before, but the question that came from the online audience, that, you know, in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I believe some of us may have interacted with AA as a way of building back from recovering from alcoholism or from drug addiction. The first step to recovery is admitting. Actually, it says we admitted that we were powerless towards alcohol.
And our lives had become unmanageable.
And our lives had become unmanageable. Yeah. And then we acknowledge that there's a higher power. That's step number 2. So number 1 really is admission. So every man in the room or every man listening or watching today this is a point that really must be driven home properly, that it is okay to admit. Actually, failure is part and parcel of life. We cannot live a life such that we only accept success and reject failure. I mean, that is so ideal.
I mean, Pablo
that is not
that
real
for a while.
Yeah, that is idealism. We must be realists and see that when failure comes, we must confront it as it is. Yeah. So it starts from accepting that there is actually a problem. So even before we think about therapy, before we think about building a community, before we think about and every other sort of help, we must be determined, you know, to build back better for ourselves.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Morris. Fred, yeah, please go ahead.
I want to say something about purpose, which Tony has talked about. Purpose is what you are made to be. What you're made to be is what in a perfect world, that's what you would be doing. It's something that you enjoy doing. You can wake up in the morning and say, yes, I'm going to do that thing. Yeah. And purpose, I think, is one of the things that if we find our purpose, it can help us to do the long climb back. And you don't have to quit what you are doing now that earns you a living. If you can find your purpose and do it even on the side, it can help a great deal. I think I spent many years working in the corporate world and practicing PR. And of course, because of my many challenges, it wasn't working for me. It was a major challenge. The last few years, I have found purpose in teaching, passing on the knowledge that I have in communication and teaching it to upcoming communication professionals. And I find I do that with ease. I enjoy doing it, and seeing the students getting the knowledge and coming back and saying, yeah, I learned something and you really helped me. I passed my exam, I graduated. That helps a great deal. But apart from that, I would like to refer to something that Prof referred to, Professor Lukoye. He talked about at some point, a man needs to seek help. Yeah. And I just wanted to add to that, to say that you don't have to reach rock bottom to seek help, because a lot of men, or maybe, I don't know if almost all of us, we will fight. We will carry all that load, you know. You fight until when you see a man eventually coming to seek for help, know that they have tried, maybe for 5 or 10 years, trying to make it work, and it didn't work. That's when now they come. But you don't have to wait until then. You can seek help. When you begin to see challenges, you are going down, you can seek whatever help you need, whether it is from the family or from medical help or other kind of assistance that you need. So rock bottom itself, I pray that none of us gets to rock bottom. But if you do get there, you know, it's not necessarily a very terrible place, because it's that place from which you cannot dig down any further. you can only now go up. And it's the time when you know I can't do it any longer. So that's the point when you will go seek help from people, or your attitude will change towards that thing. Now I can actually do something about this. The last thing I would like to say is that knowledge is very important. Knowledge is power. And just referring to my experience about the sleep condition and not even knowing what I was dealing with and having to suffer through this for so many years, knowing that what I was dealing with is actually some medical condition, that whereas there's no cure, you can actually manage it through sleep hygiene. I think that has helped me a great deal. Yeah, leaving my phone far away, sometimes ensuring that even my last meal is as early as 5 o'clock. So by the time I'm going to bed, my tummy is not full, right? That I get time to relax and breathe in and out before I sleep. I find that has helped a great deal. So whereas the challenge remains, because it's a long-standing problem, but I have some good night's sleep once in a while. And for the men who are struggling with anything out there, I know there are some who may not have people to go to, the way maybe Pablo did or the way I did. I have a powerful group that has helped me a lot, even financially, and giving me job opportunities. But not everyone has that, I know. So for those of us who maybe believe in a higher power, a higher being, I find that spending time in prayer, whether irrespective of the religion you belong to, spending time in prayer to that higher being can help. It can help you find your footing. It can help you feel better. But I know that ultimately, even the higher power wants us to be in a community where we are supported and where we can feel that we belong. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. We're going to open up to the audience now with some questions. And as we get the mic to the gentleman sitting there, I have a few online questions as well, which I'll ask in a few minutes, which we'll throw out to the entire panel. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Once again, I want to thank the organizers for this forum. It's a very important forum. My name is Kennedy Odhiambo. I work for an organization called Masculinity Institute. I've been working on engaging men and boys for the last 15 to 20 years, but then on gender-related matters, more so in terms of supportive roles. Until today now, I'm really focusing on the wellness of men and boys. Two things that I want to say, that sometimes we need to step back a bit to check on what is the definition of a man in the current state or in the present day and time, because this has changed so much. Whereas there's a notion that we may be having these expectations of a man in the present day and state, society has changed so much, but men have been left behind because most of the intervention, like the gentleman was saying, have never considered the issues and concerns of men as mainstreamed in any decisions that they are making in terms of gender and gender agenda. Then the second thing that I wanted us to really think about is the aspect of, managing failure. And that is one thing that is very, very challenging for men, because we know how to succeed. We work hard towards succeeding. But how to manage failure is a big problem, because when you fail, then even the constituency around you changes. Even the life in the house changes. And that is where we also need to demand some fairness and a listening ear from our partners in terms of ensuring that the home is conducive. Sometimes the idea or the issue of people getting addicted to substance and drug abuse is because the house is hostile. The home is hostile to the extent that you don't want to see eye to eye. In fact, you want to go and fall on the bed, sleep until tomorrow. And this is because either there's a problem in communication or our partners do not necessarily listen to us and understand what we are going through. On Monday this week, I went to preside over a process for young boys who are going through initiation. That was somewhere in Dandora. Nairobi. And what they told me is not what we think we need to do as men and as fathers. One, we are absent. Secondly, they see us taking drugs and they are not happy about it. But thirdly, we are not their role models necessarily. So where is the problem? We need to begin to dissect that. One thing that has been mentioned is that we need now to move away from the traditional setups that where we meet men in the corporates and so on. And so. This is important, yes. But then what about the border rider who is in the community? How do we create a forum for them to engage? Because we cannot be experts in their issues. They know how to solve their issues. So we need to develop interventions that target them. And finally, men are not supporting men per se. Because if you look at initiatives that are currently underway, whatever the case, however small it may be, men are in positions of authority, but if there's any opportunity to support men, they don't. Because it's fashionable to support women and girls, yes. But for men, you have to struggle even when you are pushing the agenda of men and boys. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anyone on the panel want to respond to that? I think there was some really interesting points there as well.
Speak to some of the things that he's alluded to. One of the things I teach now, so how I have changed, is men need to show up more. So how do we show up more? You show up in community, in family. So first circle is family. Then you show up in your neighborhood. So what's happening in your neighborhood? Are you showing up in your neighborhood? Then you show up in your community of people. So which men do you know? And I'm speaking men. Do you know? If there's a school where your children go, are we showing up in those schools? That's why we offer influence and support and can be seen. Yes. So like that. So the circle keeps getting larger. And even on forum, that's why I come to forums like this. So for the guy who doesn't have a circle like the one that I had, and maybe he'll see me, maybe he will find me online, maybe he will reach out so that he knows that this story is not just his, that he can find someone else. The second thing, we need to overcome our shame. If there's a thing that kills men, it's our shame because it disrupts our dignity, and we are all about respect and dignity more than we are about love and tenderness. So when you block, our shame stops us from asking for help, from acting in our own best interests. So we become our own worst enemies because our shame shackles us. So the reason also I come here and I tell my story as raw and sometimes as difficult as it may seem to say some of the things in public is to remove the stigma of shame. You can't call me out on something that I've already told you. Yeah, it doesn't own me anymore. Yes, I was in my father's house at 49. What else can you say? I've already said it.
That's a valid point, you know.
So
and I want to add to that, Pablo, because that is why in 2019 I did the Engage talk about. It was actually titled Rock Bottom, on going to rehab, 23 years of addiction, and I still remember this. My mom was dead set against me doing it. She was absolutely adamant that I should not go online on a forum that big and talk about being
you'll be the shooting.
I'll be
dartboard.
I'll be the shame of the family.
Yes.
Talk about a cocaine and alcohol addiction. So I told her I wouldn't do it, but I did it anyway. And then she started getting messages from her friends to say, "You must be so proud." And then she said to them, "He didn't want to do it, but I told him he should." So the shame became great pride. And no one can say anything to me like you, because no one can take me back to that rock bottom but myself.
No one can take you back there because you've already owned that place. Yeah. So it frees you to now start the journey of becoming. The other thing I want to say is this, and I'm glad that the story today is about the long walk back. Let me tell you, this is not a tomorrow conversation that will end. It's not a day after conversation. It's not a 1 year conversation. No. 2019, this is 2025. I am still on that journey. And every day I learn something new. Sitting here today, coming for these sessions, I have learned new things from him. Yeah, I've learned from them. Yeah, I've discovered there are so many men doing things for men, but we aren't talking to each other. Like as he says, we aren't showing up for each other. I'm glad Tony is here. We went to university just about the same time. I was a bit ahead of him. But Tony calls me when he has something. Says, Abdul, I know you are passionate about men and boys and doing these things. Come. I have a forum where I think your story is going to make sense. And now I know the next time I have something, I'll call Farid. Why? We have to show up for each other and put ourselves also on platforms that allow other men to see so that they can start this journey for themselves.
And without shame.
Without shame.
Without shame and guilt. I think there was another hand raised, or a couple of hands raised in the audience, so we can ask away.
So good evening. My name is Cynthia, and I'm asking as a woman who is a part of your ecosystem as men. I'm a mother of 2 pre-adolescent boys, and I worry that urbanization, lifestyle has eroded some of these traditional values and opportunities to also gain resilience. Like Prof had said, the edge set thing where people go and like where I come from, people in edge sets, they go get circumcised together and they maintain that relationship so that these are the men that they can refer to later on and remain accountable. So even as you say, Pablo, even as you say, men should put their needs ahead sometimes before their family or the people surrounding them. I'm scared that we are going to raise a generation of people who are self-centered, egoistic, and maybe not putting responsibility of family, because the traditional values of having a man as a provider also provides a certain, where when they cannot have something or a driving force to provide for this family, they also lose a sense of purpose. So just asking, how do we get a balance and not lose ourselves where men are too soft, for the lack of a better term?
Pablo, before you go, you're talking about boys. The first thing you should do is to get them into a team sport. A team sport. I think Pablo and I, we went to uni at different times, but we played for the same club in uni. And right now, we are members of a fraternity that tells people raw. If you mess up, they tell you raw on WhatsApp. Hapo tumesema screenshot mafia, endeleeni tu screenshot, tumesema ukweli. So we are somewhere where sometimes the men need to hear it. You needed to hear. You're messing up for it. Come on. What's this rubbish? Sort yourself out. Put yourself together. Somebody has to be able to tell you. Right? And team sports are whether it's soccer, whether it's rugby, just choose. But where we are playing for each other, side by side. And like that group has what? People from 1978 to guys who cleared last year. So it's a very wide. But then there's a brotherhood. And those are some of the pillars that you require to stay standing, even when you're sliding down. You need something to hold on to. And just for the boys, I think the best thing would be a team sport as a start. Sorry, Pablo,
Let me speak to my experience and what I did. So I told you that I'm a father of 2 boys. So for me, this is a true story. Yeah. My oldest is 20. He's in first year in university now. And my youngest is 18, just finished his KCSE. Is it a week? Just over a week ago. How do you offer presence? So one of the things, and these are the deliberate things that men must do. The first point of contact for your son or for the boy is his father. I'll say that as uncomfortable as it may sound, it is his first hero is his dad. Yeah? I like to say, I am my father's son. In as much as we have what I call an antagonistic relationship, he's still my hero. There's so many things about him that I see that I want to be like. So the first place we must show up for in terms of our kids is where are the fathers? And what does it mean? For me, a provision is in my list of things. It's almost number 6. So we've switched. We have said that because we pay bills, we don't show up anywhere else. But that's the biggest lie. In fact, in the world we live today, he was talking about redefining what the man is. Women are earning more than us, many of them. So are you saying in your home that because if you don't earn the higher salary, you can't be a man? But I'll show you, there are many homes, people may not say it here today, where women are earning more than the men. True? Yeah. So does that stop you being the man there? So what are we called to do first? We're called to lead. And to lead means you must know who you are. Who you are has nothing to do with provision. So what do you stand for? What will you do and what will you not do? What's your value system? That's what you teach the boys first. Not about how much money they will make. Because money without purpose or direction or value will create more problems than even not having that money. And we've seen what toxic masculinity around men with money and means, what they do to women, what they do to children, and yet they have everything. So, identity. We spoke about purpose, very important, because you have mission for self. That's what you teach the boys first. Yeah? So who are you? What do you stand for? What do you believe? What are the things you will not do? What are the lines you will not cross? When you're asked for a bribe, do you pay or do you go into the cell and pay bail and lose a whole day's work? What's the thing you fashion for your son to see if he's in the car with you? It's the long, hard road back. And it's not just because of guys who are rock bottom. It's for people every day. I call it atomic habits. Every day, small things that add up into this man that you want your son to be. And it cannot be taught by women. That's the other thing. There is no Jaden's Kababa. No. This is a man to boy conversation.
Yes.
I will say this without fear. A boy learns from another man.
Yes.
He's talked about team sports. That's why we learn from each other. There are things you will never teach your son as a woman. But that guy, even that deadbeat guy, will teach him something that your money cannot. So don't block that channel, women in the room. Just because he's not paying bills, don't block that channel. Those issues are yours and his. So the channel between father and son must remain what? Open. The second channel that's primary, we talked about building urban tribes. Because we know the HSET is no longer there. We're living in Tao. Yeah? So who are the guys you surround yourself with that your son looks at and says, I want to be like that guy too? If Farid shows up with me, my son should say, hey, that guy is okay. Dad, I like how your friend thinks. Do you have guys that you can leave your son with and you'll be okay? Me, I do. My son is in the UK now, but he's not with me. And I'm fine. Why? Because I have built that resilience over time. So we have to be there. We can't be in the bar and we can't be at work. We must deliberately do things that put us in the space where our children see how we live. And this is for men. That's why I'm saying this provision thing overemphasized, underperforms when it comes to the things that matter. If you want to build character, it must be seen. We can't just tell them, because first of all, they know when we're lying. Our kids know better than us. Yeah, they say, why do you think you only got A's? You must read always. The guy knows you're lying. He just can't tell you to your face. Ama nimesema uongo. Yeah, he knows. And that's what they feel, the energy in the room. Our kids read us better than we can read ourselves. So you are the first person that you need to show up. So if there are no father figures, you must start thinking, who are those people in his life who then represent that father figure for that boy? And which environment can you put him in where he gets the kind of influence that's beneficial to him? Because what they are seeing out there on social media and out here, from wash to everything, those are the role models that they think it takes for a guy to make it. Because what are we positioning? Having money matters more than anything else. But it doesn't. It doesn't. The happiest guys have the fewest things. I've ever wondered why. And anyway, when you go to heaven or wherever it is, you can't carry that money with you. So after doing all that, you still leave it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm saying that because I'm 50 plus and I have lived a lot of my life.
Yeah, we're going to go back to the audience just now, but there's a question online here, and I think it's an important one. So this can be for women in the audience to answer, but also anyone on the panel as well. The question is from a woman's perspective, how do you deal with a man at rock bottom? So I'm going to throw that out to the audience, to women in particular first, and then we can bring it up to the panel. Anyone want to tackle that one in the audience? No one's dealt with that?
Or how did you deal with a man at rock
bottom? How did you deal with a man at rock bottom? I think we have someone here.
Thank
That we all know.
Hi.
Run. Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Are you well? My name is Helen Nyawira Odongo from the Absa family. I'm so proud of Anthony. I'm a mental health ambassador at Absa. So I think I want to speak for the woman today. And we have our loved ones, our brothers who hit rock bottom. I think for me, I've walked journeys with men who've hit rock bottom. And one word I would say that all men heal when they are loved. I think that's how I would summarize it. If you love a man who is going through a night season, you don't need to judge them, just hold space for them and love them. I would also add and call it person-centered therapy. It goes back again to love, a lot of empathy and unconditional positive regard. At times, these men don't even believe in themselves, especially if you're a wife or a sister to a person going through a night season. Let them know that they are not judged. At times, they can get suicidal. Remind them about purpose. Their life is important. It's not about money. It's about purpose. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's amazing. Thank you. Yes, please go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, that is a very critical point that the ladies here and the ones listening should hear and do and repeat. This is because men by nature are aggressively private. And holding anything about a man confidential is more important to them than them living. So if you house that and you know you're a man and you know they are going through a hard time, it's that relationship which allows a man to show their vulnerability. And once they come open and show it, what Nyawira has said then become part and parcel of therapy and the starting point of therapy. And charity starts at what? So that is where it should start. Thank you.
Thanks, Doc.
May I just add that? I think Nyawira took the words. Nyawira took the words right out of my mouth because I was going to say there's that thing called love, and it's underrated. It's completely underrated, and it's an important part of a relationship. But people have different ways of expressing it, and often men have difficulty expressing it and expressing their need for it. So if there's a woman around them who understands this person and loves them, they need to understand that and perhaps try to understand what language, how does this guy express it, and when is he asking for it without being verbal. And what Dr. Weru has said about if I'm going through something and there is somebody close to me that we are in a relationship with, and that person creates an environment where I can be vulnerable, that is the beginning of healing. It takes just one indiscretion to destroy that for life. It's just one instance where she will go and tell her best friend girl that, oh my goodness, that guy is a good for nothing sort. He just sits on the sofa every day and he does nothing. And then this story comes round and gets back to him. That'll be the end of it. Everything else after that is performative. Because this guy is sitting there, I know. It's not safe around here. I have to build a wall around me so that I don't get hurt again. Even when the man is saying, we are fine now, we are good. But the wall is built. And it has to be, unless they start working to deliberately break that wall, it will remain there. So it's very important, yes, to create an environment where a man can be vulnerable, but to also maintain that environment and ensure that that trust is not broken. Because once it is broken, building it back is going to be next to impossible.
Thanks, Professor. In the interest of time, one more question. So the young lady on the end there. Sorry, we've run out of time, unfortunately. So I'm doing this as a last question. And I felt it should come from a woman since it's all men on this stage. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And this has been one of the most exciting live conversations I've had. And the reason I say that is I've been a hotelier for 30 years. And for those who know me in Akhan, I speak a lot on suicide and self-harm and mental wellness for the last couple of years from my own experiences. One of the things I advocate apart from that is the boy child. And it's really big. And I know Pablo said, from a woman's perspective, we may not be able to understand everything. So I support a lot of preteens, teenagers, that age group. And it's easier to speak to them because they listen and things like this. I have a lot of male friends, personal male friends. And because of what I do, they'll talk to me individually and tell me their problems and things like this. What they look for is that they want what Professor talked about the social interactions, right? Now, each of them says, because we are friends and they are friends, they want to open up, right, to each other. But what they're struggling with, and these are 35 years old. I'm like Pablo, I'm 50, 50 years. So the thing is where I struggle, because the younger ones are easier, but as a woman, with the older ones, as much as they speak to me, I don't know how to get them to get that first step where they can be able to trust each other. And what they all tell me is the fear of what we talked about, of the shame and, looking like, they're not succeeding, but yet everybody's going through what they're going through and maybe going through the same thing. And if they support each other, they'll be able to, have that community. But each one of them they're in their own individual little bubbles. Now, as a woman, because it's harder for me, of course, how do I get like the men to be able to find that social, to start that first step of finding that social circle, or being able to start opening up instead of just opening up to me, but now find that group so that they can have that type of support. Because for me, and another thing I've done, I've actually resigned from my job so that I can now live in my purpose and do this for the rest of my life. So this is very important to me.
Thank you. I'm going to let each one of our panelists give us 30 seconds each to answer that question. Go ahead, Pablo. You can start. Yeah.
Check one. Thank you. Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for immersing. What was your question again?
Encouraging young men to find their social circles, I think, is the...
Okay. One of the ways I got back, one of my biggest support system were my female allies. So remember, my wife is not in that space at that point, yeah? But I had women, I call them those ones who they showed up. Eh? You know, when women show up for you, they show up. Eh? Can I get a witness? When women show up for you, they show up. They show up emotionally, they show up practically. Yeah, they will call you, they will ask the questions the guy will not ask. Maybe because we are wired emotionally different. So what you are doing is great. You need to put them in spaces. Now that you know people like us, you need to put them in spaces where they can begin to see these kind of interactions. Yeah. And maybe not obviously, but because you have a trust relationship, you'll be the judge of what that looks like. Yeah. But put them in spaces with guys who are trustworthy and can allow them to unload, to, as I think Tony said, release that pressure valve in a safe space. That would be what I would do. In Stratton, where my youngest son goes to school, we built a father-son group, and it's gonna stay. So when the boys finished, every year would do an activity per quarter with the boys. So we'd ask them what they want to do, and then we'd also, and all those activities were outdoors. So boys are action-oriented. They were acting, we were doing things. Either we would go walking, hiking, play soccer, something, drive, anything that allows them to see us in a natural element. So with those boys going into these are younger ones, but in those spaces, those boys were able to see not just their fathers, but other men they could begin to see, build trust relationships with that were safe. So you need to put them in spaces like that with people that I'm sure you know.
Thank you. Fred?
Your name is? Mabel? Nadra, okay. Yeah, Nadra, that's a very important question. You know, the definition of a man as tough, stoic, carrying the load of the whole society, thinking about everyone else but himself. It is not in the scriptures. It's not in the Bible. It's not in the Quran. You know, it was, it's as Professor Weru would say, and Professor Tony, it's a social construct. And it is something that was defined then because it made sense then. The time of our forefathers, of course, men were out there working, bringing in the hunting and the whatever, and the family will be taken care of. But we are now in a society, we are urban, we're in a society where women are equally empowered, And so the man suddenly finds himself in a situation that a woman can actually do without him. The life can actually continue even if you don't do anything in this house. Yeah. So, but it's become cultural. It's ingrained in us that a man is supposed to be stoic, tough, doing things by himself. Yeah. So changing culture is not easy, but we have to. If we are going to survive the next many years as men, and if our boys that are coming up now are going to be tough, in quotes, be men in society that works together with women well, then I think we have to change the culture. And that's already ongoing, as you can see. Space like this one contributes to that already. And there are other similar spaces like this one elsewhere. I just heard that you have resigned from your work to focus on this. And I think that's important. So I just want to say that it's culture, it's in our DNA, and it won't be easy, but we have to do it. We have to change the culture. I think we also have to redefine success. Success right now is defined as me having money, having a good job, or my business is succeeding, and I can take care of my family without any problem. Yeah, we need to begin looking at success as not performance-based, but just me making those little steps. First of all, even waking up in the morning and making your bed and getting out, showing up, as Pablo was saying, showing up, whatever you're supposed to show up, that's already success. Working towards your goal, discovering your purpose, that is success. So even if you find yourself during a season when you can't bring in the cheese, it doesn't mean that you're a complete failure. It's just a season and you're making progress towards your goal. That is success. If you're able to, if that leads to something that brings in the money, that's good stuff. And finally, because this is the last time I'm speaking, I would say that we need, as men, because this is now about men, we need to see our value as inherent, not performance-based. Our value is inherent. We are created with value. Yeah, it's not performance. So I don't have to be performing. I don't have to introduce myself as, when I come to a place, I say, I am so and so, and I hold a PhD, and I work in this particular place. That's important. I don't disregard it. It's important. But your value is inherent, and you still have value even if you don't have all those things. You still have value. Keep doing your best. I would say the last thing for the young men who are not yet married, I pray that you marry a woman who is your friend and who will love you for who you are. It's a prayer, because you've just seen that it's very important, as Nyanyawira said. That's very important for men. So the men who are already in marriages, I pray that your wives are listening to us today.
And you're going home and not to the bar from here. Please, Doc.
That's a good one. We should follow it. Thank you. And to me, I think the starting point is to define ourselves. You and your son. You're the father, he is a son. He is not a small you. And that will therefore give you an environment of knowing how you're going to have a relationship with him. Your context at his age is not his context at this age. He could be 18, you are 18. What you did at 18 is not what he can do at 18. I cannot go telling my son, because I harvested a lot of coffee in Nyeri, at 18, he should also go to Nyeri in December and harvest coffee. His situation is totally different. Those factors have to be taken into consideration as we relate with them. And there are so many confounding factors that come in. And if we don't take those into consideration, then we won't be able to understand them. And we are called upon to listen to them, listen to comprehend before you respond to them. Because when you don't respond to them based on the question they asked, then they'll say you are not there for them. And then they'll come to you and say, we want to express ourselves. But you, where you are and where you sit, you talked. But did you discuss? Did you listen to what these young people were saying? And one of the challenges we are facing today is to prescribe what should really be happening at each and every stage. But we know contemporary life has given us ways of, and the fact that it is not the same last year and this year. So I believe those are some of the factors that we need to consider so that they feel free to discuss with us. There's some gentlemen, some men, young men I talk to regularly, and I found it useful to take them from their classes. We take what we call a road trip. And their biggest surprise is you can get away from your work and take a road trip with us. So the first question we usually ask, I usually get asked is, so today we are going for, is it limited? I say, no, it will only be limited by one factor, when you want to turn. And the stories start at that point. Yeah? And these people have stories to tell. And what they know, if they were to sit us down and tell us what we know, I think it will take us 1,000 years to know what they know at 20. That is how life is today. So that is very important. And create a conducive environment for them, that you are there for them, that is not a demand, and therefore it's something that is for all of you. Don't separate yourself from them. Become an equal partner in that discussion, and they'll give you a lot of feedback. And you learn a lot from also them when you.
Thanks. Tony.
Whoa. How do you?
You know?
I think he set me up. How do you come after that? The panel here has done a litmus test, or can I say they've proven that rock bottom it's an event, right? Rock bottom is an event. And events happen in there's some good events, some bad events in our lives. And for you, with these older guys, because you asked about the older guys, I think our duty in this room is to be able to go out to people like that and tell them it's okay, because it's just an event. You can there's life after that event, and you can fix whatever went wrong because of that incident. The struggle I also have at XY is getting the people. Some people have opened up, and it's taking a while for the others to open up. So what we have to keep drumming into our brothers is that there's nothing wrong with the situation you're in. There's no shame. Like Pablo said, get rid of that shame. Earlier, we're discussing 10 years ago, or say 15 years ago, it was unheard of for somebody to stand up and say, I'm living with HIV. You remember that stigma guys had, right? Now, people are brave enough to say, yes, this is a condition I'm living with, right? So the mental condition, whether temporary or permanent, what it's something you're living with. There's no shame in people knowing it. And then there are more people that have a mental condition or with a problem with mental wellness than we actually know. You remember we said 1 in 8, right? So we just have to keep telling our brothers, listen, there's nothing wrong with whatever you're going through. It's not your fault. There's nothing wrong. You'll get up. Just to get somebody to open up and talk about it. That's the route that I'm thinking you could take.
Thank you. Very quickly, Maurice will finish with you. And and then we will close this incredible discussion.
I'm just going to finish with 2 quotes. One from Maya Angelou that, in life you may encounter many defeats, but you must never be defeated. This is to the men. And lastly, from Nelson Mandela, that the greatest glory in living is not in never falling, but in rising every time you fall. So I hope to meet more men, and I'm looking forward to talking to these great panelists later in my work, because they are a source of inspiration to me. And thank you to everyone who made it to this space and who made this conversation a reality, including you, Farid.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to the panelists and to all of you guys as well. I mean, this is, I've sat in one of these chairs recently as a panelist. And each time I come to this forum, it's just a remarkable experience. And it's because it's always the people that share. So thank you so much. Anthony Kagiri is coming up to give us the wrap up and a little thanks.
Thank you so much. Let's give an award of applause to the panelists and the moderator. Let's appreciate them. Thank you, everybody. As always, towards the end, we don't want to finish because everybody has something to say. So we keep the conversation going. I want to appreciate all of you for coming. This is our 12th edition of the Live Conversation. This one was heavy. People have purpose. People are leaving jobs. Others are, I am trying to find my purpose. And maybe my purpose is to organize live conversations. So that all of you can come and share your purpose in this live conversation. And I want to appreciate people who work with me in the Live Conversation Forum organizing committee. If they would stand up, they are here. There's Mary there. Let's clap for Mary. There's Patrick there. There's Wangari there. There's Siox somewhere. There's Winnie somewhere here. And Benjamin, who is not with us. So that committee sits down every often and thinks about the next one. And now we are thinking about February 2026, and it will be coming. And I think we will love it as well. Thank you so much for always coming. A few of you always come. Then we always have new people. And we are very, very happy to do this. I think this is one, I love my job, but this is one of the other fulfilling thing I do here. So maybe actually, yes, this is my purpose. I want to appreciate the panelist and the moderator with a gift because I need photographs. And so that's not. Yeah, really, really. Things you could have done, and you can find evidence each in its conversation. So we'll start with the moderator. So, photographs, you want them around here or Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yes, I also want to
Speaker. Thank you so much, everybody. I want to invite you for a cup of tea and snacks on the ground floor, and we can continue the conversation. There have been so many questions.
Drop me a message. Yeah.
10 more questions the same we will ask them. We will find a way of answering this in the things we do have. This content will be up on our social media channels, AKU, and also
Hey, that got deep.
Those who have grown here,
Sure.
will find-
You tell me anytime. Yeah. Happy to.
Please give it. Mary is there, Mary is blue. You want to thank for you, so you can stay down. And then you, so you can see.
We have one in.